All right. Yeah, yeah. Skip was making fun of me for the headshot I put in our new vendor announcement area. So,
That one's from a while ago.
yeah, I've been told by many people that I need to make sure that we have our faces in promotional material when we go live. And I'm like, oh, okay, fine.
Okay.
I'll get one of the cheesy headshots I have. And I went back and like, man, who's that guy? I think that's Skip.
Uh, that was me. I had to get a new the one that's out there is an old one, and when we went to IT Nation Secure just a few months ago, they were wanting me to get in for all their speaker material and stuff, and I was like,
Oh yeah.
oh man, I got to find something better than that. And I don't know if it's better, but it's newer.
It works. It works. So with this week we're kind of like overlapping a bit, right? So we did a lot of work with compliance with Tim Golden earlier on this month, which means that our usual compliance sessions that happen during this time aren't as aren't have already been covered.
Yeah.
So we get 2 free weeks to cover whatever we want, unicorns and rainbows. And I
There we
thought,
go.
hey, we are super excited about this new release we have coming up. Why not talk about it? And maybe we can get people in the chat to talk about what they think we should do
Yes.
with this as we're building it out right now. We've been scoping this project out for quite a while, and we
Mhm.
finally pulled the trigger on it about 3 months ago and said, hey, this is what we were going to release before September. And so what it is we always get asked in our onboarding sessions and from clients is, do you have any way to automatically find gaps at the client? And the answer is like, well, this is kind of an NP complete problem. So for you computer science students out there, an NP complete problem is one that can be solved by a human really well, like a traveling salesman problem. Now, AI has kind of closed the gap on NP complete problems. There are things that we as a human can do really well that a computer cannot do. And one of those things is assessing an environment for gaps. So, how do you ask a computer to tell you where are the gaps in this client environment? And so, usually, an engineer can pop in and do this in, no time at all
Right.
because it's a human problem. Like, how do you determine if a client is not doing um, assessments doing user training every year? Like, where do you look that up? And
Yeah.
so, whereas a human can go in and ask another human, "Hey, do you guys do computer-aided training or anything like that?" "Oh,
Mhm.
yeah, we do. We use CompTIA. We use" and then they can tell you what system they use, and you can mark that down. Check, they do training. Well, what kind of training you do, and you can dive in then.
Well,
But
and this is a really sometimes it can seem really simple until you start to put your hands on the keyboard and start really mapping it out.
yeah,
And so my classic example on this is runtime on the UPS. So I've been involved with editing our kind of master templates for years and years now, even before Humanize IT was really even around. We were involved in that process, and we had done some member feedback and just kind of gotten a general good, answer there. And it was 20 minutes. Right? And so the template was built to assess whether someone has at least 20 minutes of runtime on their UPS or not. But here's the deal. That is actually a widely variable answer. You've got clients who, if the lights go off for more than 10 minutes, they're done for the day, right? They're going to the lake, they're going fishing, I mean, whatever, they're out. But then you can turn around and have the very next client, and they're like, I don't care if the lights go out. I've got candles in the closet over there. We're going to work, all day long. I need my systems up. So, two very, very different answers to that sort of simple question. Do you
yeah,
have enough do you have 20 minutes of runtime on your UPS? But that's not the right question to ask. The right question is, do you have enough runtime on the batteries to support your business? And that
yes,
is a very variable answer. But what Adam's getting to here is there are things that don't have so much variation to it. And what I like about this feature is we are freeing up time for your team members to focus on the things that do require the human element. We want
correct.
to empower that human element of your team Give them data that can be automated, and then really dive in with your clients.
Yeah. So from a project standpoint, so I've done a lot of work in corporate world. Our ability to do project management is insane. And some of you have some great project managers out there. But you haven't seen nothing until you've seen like $1 billion company do a project management. They know how to drive that into the ground. Like
Yep.
every detail is accounted for. And I mean, that's where you get your big Gantt charts. You get your time allotments. You get your cost for engineering time versus management time. I mean, they really break it down, and then they can forecast it out for the next project. That's not where the MSP world is. Your clients do not have that maturity level where you can get that level of detail. It's nigh impossible. So it's led to the account manager or the engineer to do the project management, and you just don't have the time to be that detailed. So you're always looking for ways to automate. How do I automatically gather licenses? How do I automatically gather details? And it's really tempting to fill your meetings and your project schedule with things that you can automate. And this is the wrong direction to go when it comes to project automation.
Absolutely.
You shouldn't think, okay, what can I automatically gather? And let me talk about those. No, during a project session, during a project meeting with clients, it can be a QBR, it can be a TBR, it can be whatever you want to call it. During a project management session, you should be working with the client to determine when do projects need to happen, what are the priorities on them. Now, discovering those projects or putting them together is another conversation. And it comes down to, like, you can put a bunch of data in front of the team and say, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're overusing 6 licenses, or we're underusing 6 licenses. And you can talk about that stuff because licenses are really easy to gather. You can pull that up from Office 365 and you can talk about that. But instead, think to the client, the 2 Qs that Skip always talks about. What are your sources of revenue? What are your risks? Now, what do we need to do to support that? And then go from there and think, what information do we need to gather?
Yes.
And that's how you do project management from that top level down. Rather than thinking of, okay, what can I gather automatically so we can discuss this at the meeting? Then you end up in what we call the weeds. You end up not seeing the forest for the weeds, and you're making great time, but you're not going anywhere. You're not generating revenue for your client. But there are things that are useful. So, like when you say, hey, our MSP does not support Cisco very well. Let's just pick on Cisco because they're easy to pick on.
Yeah.
We really love SonicWall. We really love Checkpoint. We really love FortiGate. Pick your favorite vendor. And say, if you have one of these, then we probably need to migrate over to a system that we can support better because our technicians are certified platinum on Series X.
Yep.
So you can gather that information really easily, and that can support your project schedule without going overboard. You still need a project that says we need to deep dive into licensing and talk about, are we up to date on licensing? That is a project. Now, saying you have 16 licenses, you need 18. That's not a project. That's an operational goal. Hey, I need to go true those up for you.
Right.
Project requires you to discuss, plan, and implement. So what we want to do here is show you what we've built so that you can have a canvas to discover things that your clients care about and automatically create a project. Hey, look, we have a project here we probably need to discuss with you and see where are we going. So let me flip over to
while Adam's bringing it up, let me comment on what you need to discuss. And I see this happening over and over and over again. You are talking about things with your clients that don't need to be discussed. And so what needs to be discussed? What is going to impact their business? And if you have this fantastic report and all of this data that is showing everything that's good, all right, you think you're communicating your value to your client. Hey, we closed this many tickets. Hey, we patched this many machines. We did this, we did this, we did this. And it's all green. It's all looking fantastic. You think that shows your value, but it doesn't. It just shows that you're working. Right? And what's going to show your value is what you can do for your clients.
Yeah.
So for many of you, if you take that sort of standard and look at your QBRs or your meetings, if you're talking about everything that you have already done and it's already good, there isn't a value proposition in that necessarily for the clients. You need to be talking about what you can do that's going to help their business. And that's why so many of your meetings go really long, and because you're doing a lot of great things, and the clients aren't necessarily as impressed as you thought they would be, because it doesn't impact them. They don't feel the impact. They don't see the impact that it's making to their business. So as you get into these automated tools, remember, they need to support your team in helping you zero in on the things that you need to have a conversation about. If you write a rule in here and it shows all these things are good, that's not an item that needs to show up on your QBRs. And we're not talking about bad items. We're talking about things that there's a gap, things that you can do for your clients that's going to make their business better. And that's not a negative, that's a positive. So focus on those, gather the data that you can automated, but make sure what you're taking away from this to put into your client engagements is all the future activities. You don't necessarily need to build a big dashboard that is historically focused.
Yeah. And I think, the big thing that makes me roll my eyes and Skip roll his eyes is like, can you track warranties for me? Like, why are you talking about warranties with your clients? Can you track Windows licenses for me? Why are you tracking Windows licenses with your client? Like, the things that your client cares about are not what you care about. Like, that's a great operational item. Your mechanic cares about, how often things are happening and what's going on and which parts you're using. All you care about is driving your car.
Yeah.
And so over here, what we have is, where should we start here, Skip? This is our environment. I'm in our test environment. For those of you who have never been in our test environment, during a DB sync, you will get put in here as a new member, and then we will sync over some of your data. It's adjacent to, so it has the same protections, security wise. It's a place where you can go and test out something without ruining your live environment. So you can grab that, log in. It's going to be everything similar to the prod environment. So with a little jankiness to it, because we're constantly doing dev things in it.
Yeah.
So use it at your own risk. But you come down here, and the first thing we can do is we can do this new thing called smart assessments. And these are your templates, right? What are you going to do across the organization? What do you care about? Like, maybe you just want to look for PCs that are appreciated. Maybe you want to find all firewalls that are not FortiGate. You can do some things like that. So, for instance, I created a networking assessment. So I put a firewall in here, and I call it FortiGate analysis. Richard, what are you doing in here? Anyways, I created one called, hey, if the asset type is equal to firewall, and let's add a rule into there, and the manufacturer is equal. I don't know what the actual one is called. Let's call it. So the manufacturer is FortiGate, right? I don't think we have any here. And I could say if in the current state it does not, if it currently state has this, we can give it 20 points. If it needs to be a future state item, then we're going to give it 0 points because they don't get any score for that. Is it the other way around, Skip?
I've been playing around with that, and I think there's some flexibility in how you look at that.
I want to fix this where it's a little bit more descriptive. What it should be is, what is the current, like if it matches this currently, we're going to give you points. And if you get to what's the total score that it could be 100.
Yep, there you go.
The idea there is for those of you. Oh, go ahead. Skip, I'll let you do it.
Been asking about weighting a statement in a gap analysis. This is how we've kind of dove into this. There are other ways you do that to highlight different things, like Windows 7 and Server 2012. That was a common one. But if you need to weight something really, really importantly, you can do that with this custom scoring methodology here.
Yep. So what I've done here is I've given it a rule to follow. And if it exists, it's going to get a score of 20. And every time we see one pop up, it's going to get another score. And so the idea there is you should be able to weight your environment. So like if somebody has an up-to-date firewall observing your rules, then they should score really high. For for that one asset because it affects the entire environment versus a PC that maybe not depreciated may only gets 5 points. And the idea there is that, you can weight things. If you want to make a big improvement in the environment, fix your firewall, fix your critical PC. And so you can come down here and you can add as many rules in here as you want. Look for your switches that are Cisco, everything like that. And so you're going to build these rules that can be applied to any client. And when you build those rules, you're going to have these subcategories, which should look really familiar to you, longtime users of the reports area. You have subsections here, and it's going to measure them out. So when I haven't played around with the import from template yet, Skip.
Yeah, I haven't either.
I'm not sure where that is. It doesn't do much right now.
No, it's still, we're waiting on that one.
I don't think that's tomorrow. So
no.
I think the whole goal there is to have different templates for different kinds of clients. So I'll have to go back and check my notes. So when you come up here, you should be able to go to clients, right? You should be able to go to Acme Core, our favorite child to beat up. You can see our SOC 2 compliance stuff there. Oh, it's still working in a test environment. And you come down here and you've got nothing else. Oh, wait, there's smart assessments. What are smart assessments? So we now have 3 categories we've applied to this client where we're going to see the maturity in each of these areas. So what we have over here is a new smart scores button. So you longtime members, I don't know if you guys I see a lot of people watching, but no one's commenting. Richard, I know you're out there. Laypack, not the South African kid. So anyways, you can see here where we have these assessments and we can actually synchronize these and see if they'll work. Right. So I updated that FortiGate networking one. I don't think I have any FortiGates in the environment, so it's scoring 0. However, tomorrow morning, the dev environment will get an update where if there is a gap, it's going to apply that project that I had listed. Oh, I didn't even show that, did I? So when they run the assessment, I'm going to get a score, and then here a series of projects will pop up that will be put on our list. So what project gets put up comes back to the rule. So we go over to who made the infrastructure one? Skip.
Yeah.
Guilty. You come into FortiGate now, it says what happened here. If this is true, if the asset type contains firewall and the manufacturer is equal to FortiGate, we don't like FortiGates. Let's kick them out. So implement a proper firewall solution is the project that will get created and put on the map. It'll attach the asset, which means your budget will be attached to that. So it's $4,800 to replace this thing, and a timeline will be attached to it. So at the end, you have this nice project that when you go into a meeting, then you discuss this. Like, hey, we noticed that you're not using some best practices here. Let's talk about this. Is this important to you? If you do this thing, it's going to have a big impact to your environment. Or we could focus on those PCs that are out of date and do them. It's your rules, and you can bring that up. So when you're automating project management, there's still a lot to do, but it's on the table now. You can now discuss when you're in your project team, you're putting these things on the table. You're not just grabbing a whole box of screwdrivers and just throwing them on the table and say, let's sort these today during our meeting. That's what you're doing when you're pulling up licenses and warranties and intangible things that don't really improve operations. Creating rules in here that affect your client and show them their adoption on your stack so that when you come into the project management meeting, you can now say, here is where we are. Here's where we'd like to go. Here are the high impact things for your environment. Here are the low impact things for your environment. Now let's discuss a roadmap for this. And that's when you head over.
And that's really important. So, and we've mirrored the methodology over here in our gap analysis reports. That was really important. And if you've done an onboarding with me, you've heard me say this. When you make an assessment, it generates a recommendation, and that recommendation there has a little blue plus. And I have one phrase that I say pretty much every time. You click that blue plus when it's time. And that is another one of those widely variable sort of values. When is it time to put this on the client's roadmap? When is it time to talk about to them? Well, that all depends on what's going on in their business. And is it a priority right now? Are they ready to tackle that? Do they have too many other projects? Is this something that it's affecting critical business? And we definitely need to get it on there. There's a lot that goes into determining when it's time. And those are one of those elements that can't be really automated.
Okay.
So you have to know, when is it time to talk to your client about these? Now, the cool part about both our gap analysis and the SMART analysis is that the analysis gets done. We generate a score from that. That is always there and always available. But when do you put the project on the roadmap? When it's time. No matter where that project recommendation is coming from, we put it there when it's time to talk to the client. And now you're focusing in on the things that are going to have an impact, things that are going to be important to your client, rather than, and I've seen a lot of reports like this, you have this big long list of things, half of them are red, but most of those red items don't really apply to the client, or they're very low priority, but it clutters up the really important things that you do need to be talking about with your clients. And you spend your engagements trying to sort through those. Well, that one's not really important. You know, we could probably deprioritize that one. But visually and contextually in that engagement, it's the same as the one that's going to drive sales for their business next quarter. Right? And so you need to distinguish between, hey, it's time to talk about this project, or it's not time to talk about it. And so the roadmap is going to really allow you to focus in on what is important and what you need to be talking about right now.
Yeah. And, you know, I take a little bit different one. I like to put lots of things on my roadmap and then hide the ones that are not relevant. Right. So when I come in here, I'm like, okay, so I've got, like, you can see it's my test environment, right? So I've got a billion things in here.
Yep.
And so even during sales demos, I'm always apologizing. I got too many projects. But if you come in here, you can filter them right out. You know, don't put on things that are just in the recommended or phase, or, you know, completed phase. Let's get all those out of there. Maybe you have a phase in here called backlog. You can make these whatever you want, but talk about things with your client that matter. Prioritize. And then that way, when you come in, you're not overwhelming them like Skip says. You hit the recommendation, you put them on your roadmap, and then you discuss. And then you move them up and down based upon priority levels and what the client cares about. So priority levels doesn't mean that they get done tomorrow. Priority level means this is a high priority, but you may not be able to implement for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be aware this is a high priority for the client. And so that's a really good thing to be thinking about when you, oops, I didn't hide the wrong ones. I showed the wrong one. There we go. So I'll usually do something like that. And that way, now I'm talking to them about, hey, here are the ones that I've got proposed to you. Here are the ones I've got approved. And here are the ones that, if you want to stretch, we really could get these things done. So during your project session, you've done this automated discovery of the easy gaps. You also did your manual discovery of the hard gaps. Are they doing user training? Are they happy with your service? And you've got all these on this roadmap. So you've automated a significant portion of this. You'll never automate all of it. And if you over automate, as we were talking about in the beginning, you're going to lose your client and you're not going to talk about the important things, because you can automatically pull a ton of stuff that is meaningless and you get into those weeds. It's like dumping the entire tool chest on the table.
Yep.
No, pull the things out that are necessary. Pull things out. Like, automatic answers are nice. What do you need to talk about them? What's best practices? Use our automated assessments to pull those in, create projects, and then talk to your client about what is going to be there. Because you're going to put your automated discoveries right next to your manual discoveries. Hey, we're doing no user training, and we really need to do some cybersecurity user training and some annual training about your policies and procedures.
Yep.
So that's how we talk about automated assessments. And so tomorrow we'll have another update to this beta. So for those of you doing the beta out there, this is where you play with it. This is where you give us the feedback. Like, I don't like how this flow works. And then after we get this done, we're going to do a significant improvement to the project syncs so that this all flows directly into your selling tool. And so we're already getting feedback on it and gearing up for that particular release and that particular update in September, late September, probably, depending on Skip and Adam seem to think things are easier than they really are. We already have the project syncs going. We just want to improve them significantly. So they bring in some cool stuff.
Yeah.
So if you all can get out there, play with this, but also when you're doing your project management, when you're meeting with clients, don't just bring in a whole bunch of automated lists. Do a little bit of both. And make sure those automated lists that you're building have meaning to them, have weight to them, so that you can discuss with the client. This is kind of something that's going to be a big impact to your environment. This is something that's going to be, it'll help Heather. It'll help Paul. And that's all you need to know. So,
yeah. And so kind of on like the QBR reports, I mean, I see that in a lot of different software platforms. And I'm thinking, really? I mean, what would generate a QBR? And it's good data, all right? And that's what I always come back to. I look at those reports and go, that's really cool stuff, but it's not necessarily client engaging. And you need to think about that. If you have a software platform that's managing some part of your business and it generates a QBR report, that is a valuable resource for you. It's a valuable resource for you, right? Yeah. You run that report. This is information I need to digest. I need to go over, and then I need to take the snippets out of this that are important and get those in front of my client. So don't misinterpret that QBR report that might come out of some software platform. Take that and use that as your work in progress material. And then from there, you can take the next step to have a client engagement. It doesn't go straight to your clients, right? There is a gray matter stop between those automatic, wonderful reports and your clients. Make sure it's making that stop. And that is a really, really important element.
Yep.
Whether you use our platform or anything else, make sure those reports are making that gray matter stop. An individual's looking at that, and I can pretty much guarantee you it's going to need to be worked. You're going to have to take a vast majority of that information out to make it prioritizable. Is that right? And make it identifiable for your client as to what they need to work on for their business. And with that, then you can have some successful QBRs.
Yep. Getting that client feedback aligned with your feedback, mesh it all together, create a project list, your way to go. Great way to end this conversation, Skip. And I am looking forward to next week. We'll show a little bit more of this next week. Next week, we should have a pretty good, solid grasp on what it's going to look like and how it's going to automatically generate revenue. So I really want everybody to pay attention, be playing in this. This will find missed revenue in your environment, and it'll help you consistently deliver to new clients over time. It's really complicated to build and set this up. So please give us feedback now, because it'll be hard to adjust it once we have the flow in place in a month. All right. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you later.
See ya.